started doing, John Somebody and this kind of stuff, I studied art, visual art. And I remember that feeling at that time that in the visual arts, this was in the conceptual art era, late 70s, that there was more inventiveness and more surprise than in the music world. And one of the things I wanted to do when I settled on being a composer was to have some of that what I used to call it the gee whiz factor, the sort of delight in something new, which is naturally an interesting thing not only about music but on most cultural products or habits. Is there's always an interplay between your comfort zone and familiarity, and which is to say your inheritance from the culture, and surprise and invention, and both of those things can go can come up with very pleasing results. That piece of music that makes you cry because it pulls all those familiar strings, and then the piece of music where you go, what is that? I have never heard that before. Now, of course, both familiarity and surprise can also go very wrong, which accounts for all of the boredom that we've felt, and if I had a gun, I would shoot myself right now in the middle of a concert.
John somebody.
Composers and artists in general, to some extent, a lot of people spend their lives solving something that really bothered them early on. And now the problem you're talking about of how to fuse popular musics and the classical inheritance, the various classical inheritances. This drove me away from music, and solving it pulled me back in. And part of what allowed me, I'm right now pointing downtown. When I got there, within a year, I had met Philip Glass because he was playing keyboard and I was playing guitar on a piece of Peter Gordon's at the Kitchen. And suddenly I ran into these people who were not who had found ways around this high modernist conundrum of, how do I make a music that's not the only thing that's currently respectable. Now, none of them were engaged in popular music to the extent that I was, although now there are a lot of people that are. But I felt like I'd been given permission. One of the things I saw Philip just last month, and we were talking about how John Cage loomed so large when he was a young composer, and I said, he still loomed fairly large when I arrived here, but I said, I remembered something that a quote from Philip, which was that John Cage gave him permission, and so Philip and these guys gave me permission. Even if they weren't doing popular music, there was tonality again, there was rhythm again, and although I'm not a minimalist, some of my best friends are. And I recognize that everything I've done is part of everything that I've done after it, whether I liked it, and even if I didn't like something, it's because it taught me, I like it because it taught me a lesson, you know. You learn from your mistakes, you learn from your successes, and it's all of a piece. It's not that I don't care about these older pieces, it's that there's only so many hours in a day. That's why I stopped performing, basically. I like guitar, but I love writing. So who wins?